Welcome to the second episode of the Kern Competence Podcast, a podcast by Kern about all things precision. Today I'm joined once again by my co-host Simon Eichold. Simon, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, Marvin.
How have you been, Simon?
Last week's pretty good, pretty busy. It was super hot here. So
it was so hot.
Yeah, that was crazy. We don't have air condition here.
In our offices?
Yes. We have air conditioning in the car, but that's all about it. So nobody has it in his private home or something like that. And actually, it got so hot for quite a couple of weeks. It was really a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, you can even start seeing it outside that like the grass is turning brown and yellow in color, which usually in this region of Germany doesn't happen because we get quite a lot of rain. But now it's starting to look like a really hot summer.
Yeah. California.
Yeah, not quite yet, but getting there.
Yeah.
Okay. Today's topic, we want to talk a little bit about marketing efforts. Kern is a company which I would say since you took over has gained a massive increase in popularity, in their reputation, in how many people know us. And I think one of the defining factors here is not only your workers, but also your leadership there, your expertise because of your marketing background. So if you were to sum up our competence in marketing in Kern, what is it that we are doing differently than the rest? Why is marketing working for us and not for the others?
Wow, that is a big question.
Let me quickly interrupt you. You can also expand a little bit and then sum it up in one sentence.
Okay. So when I arrived here in 2016, so the first thing I did is I put together some slides, called it Marketing Essentials. So by the way, the laptop standing right next to me and this presentation is open. So
really?
I remembered it.
We still have that presentation?
I still have it, yeah.
Why have I never seen it?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I did at that time, invited the leadership and interested people here to explain what marketing is. And what I found till this day is that, especially in machinery, more than in any other technically oriented kind of industries, marketing, there really is a big lack of marketing. And there are different ways. So if you look in other industries, marketing is a very important or the most important part in the industry.
I mean, usually, so there's, I think, quite the big misconception what marketing is. And some of our listeners maybe are now turning down the podcast because they're like, oh, I don't want to hear them talk about advertising. But marketing isn't really advertising. I learned in university that marketing is the strategic placement of the product on the market.
I would say it's even a little bit broader. Marketing is really you target what you do on actually the demand you have on the markets, which is something that's constantly changing. You could also say it's to focus on your customer, on your target group, to see really what is needed and actually adapt your offerings on what customers need. And the topic is that most of the time, if you develop something, which might be super cool, but might turn up out to be a product that nobody needs, and this happens very, very often. And there are also some immutable laws of marketing, like you might have heard, it's better to be first to be the best. So if you see, there was a video system called Super 2000, which was highly advanced over VHS at that time, but they were simply too late. So VHS made the market. Super 2000 was quite too late, and therefore it never took off. VHS made the market, and things like that you have to consider. There are some immutable laws also that apply to company Kern, for example, that we just have to stick to. Yeah.
But I mean, especially that like this marketing principle of it's better to be first is something really difficult for German mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the German mechanical engineering companies, I wouldn't say they're not innovative, but usually people are like, oh, I have something here, and no, we can never show this to the customer until it's firmly developed and we've done like 10 iterations. So first to market for a traditional German machine tool company, and the majority of them are traditional German machine tool companies, is quite hard, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it is. And but there it becomes more to the general strategy of the company, also how you introduce new products, and therefore there are very good tools in place. So we, for example, use the NPI, New Product Introduction Process, which is a project management tool with different gates that allows you really, or ensures at the end of the day that you have a product that is super stable, that's high quality, that you've done all your tasks, you didn't forget anything in all the different disciplines. I think the most important thing about that is, and I also saw that at the beginning when I came here. So we were developing things, we were building things, we made a product, and then when the product was finished, service was standing in front of this thing and said, okay, there's no way I can service this in the field. So actually what the NPI process does is it incorporates all the important departments in the company to be part of the project, and even the one who's doing documentation and, for example, service, so that you say the construction need to be serviceable and things like that. So that is pretty cool, but it's a super complex field. We could talk 2 hours just about that.
I think there might be a future episode talking about NPI. Backtracking to 2016 and you showing that marketing presentation.
Yep.
I know my colleagues at Kern here quite well, and I would guess the majority of the department heads from back then are still in the company. The leadership obviously changed. That's now you. But tell us a little bit more about that. So you're fresh in the company. You have these slides about marketing. You pull a bunch of very traditional technical people into a room, and then you're showing them to you. So how did it go?
Yeah. Actually, it went okay, I would say. It was a good start, perhaps a little bit too much at that point. So actually marketing, perhaps you allow that we start with that. Marketing is what you classically say, the 4 Ps: product, price, place, promotion. Most people think about marketing just in the last P, which is the, how should I say, most of the time the least important. It's promotion. So promotion and creating advertisements and things like that is really just the result of everything you've done earlier. And the most powerful thing is product, because product means, what I said before, is you develop something that is needed. You did your analysis, you know your market, you know your customers. That's something that's extremely important for Kern. So the whole routine, to be extremely close to the customer, to be extremely close to applications, to really know what is needed to learn every day is important to actually say this is the way we need to go. And when you tell the engineers that you want to be the one to determine what the product looks like.
I'm starting to smile and you're starting to laugh. Yeah. No, it's very true. I mean, usually engineers are quite stuck in their field and they can motivate themselves for such niches in their area where they think it's super cool and there's no market ever. And this is, for example, something I found during my brief stint in academia. I was horrified by people researching stuff that had no relevance to the market, because I mean, some of science is cool and you definitely need some basic research, be it in milling or in construction. But for me, it's super frustrating if I pour my limited lifetime, I'm only here for, let's say, 80 years on this planet. If I pour my limited lifetime into something, spend 2 or 3 years researching something, and then no one is ever going to use it again. I think this is the most horrifying thing that could happen to you, because I kind of want to change something, I want to move something. But I think the majority of engineers, they are happy to spend 2 or 3 years developing something, and then you don't have a placement on the market. You don't satisfy any customer needs. Just because it's cool to research that stuff. But for the majority of engineers, that's kind of like their nerdy little hideaway, and then they can go on with construction.
This is, by the way, you know that. So when we have our town hall meetings and things like that, what I mention every time is that every one of us, unless you're working part-time, is here for 8 hours a day. So what we do should be relevant. So if you leave the company in the evening, something should have changed for the better. I know that sounds kind of a little bit too emotional at that point, but that's exactly what is one of the motors of this company is really we want to make a change. And there's also, by the way, there are marketing principles why things went for the good in the past couple of years is because of that, because that does make a difference also in how you develop things, how you do research, how you create new products, for example. So that is extremely important. And if you want to do something relevant, you need to know actually what is needed, what the target group is, etc., etc. And the better you are in that field, the farther you can go, the more risk you can take, because of the fact that actually if you follow this creed, if you want, you're always going to be successful in what you're doing. It might be a little bit more or less relevant, but at the end of the day, everybody's going to appreciate what you do. Yeah. And so coming back to this first presentation, that was the part that hit them hard was product and actually marketing, saying, okay, we are the ones who wanna say what we will develop, what is the next product, but actually also here, if you prove once that a principle works, that what you do is right, and that we can be successful on that, it's not going to be challenged anymore. And that's what I experienced from the beginning on, is that people were super supportive on that. So we had a plan, and that was good. So by the way, that's like Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. And
we have a plan.
Yeah, we have a plan. So we're in Germany, we have a plan. And but that made it very easy then at the beginning. And you get things together. So it's not like marketing saying this is what we have to develop, but it's coming from research and development data. Wow, I have this idea, that idea. There's applications, so we need to go in this direction. And putting all together and really making the background research on that, we then prioritize. And really in 95% of the cases, you're right with what you select afterwards, together as a team.
Okay, so when you started, we had the normal micro, like the linear rail ball screw driven micro, and you were very deep into developing the HD at that time, right? Mm-hmm. Must have been right about where it was in the concept phase, and people were starting to really put work in, right?
Yeah, actually, it was a little bit different. So there was this development going on, but there were many parts in the company that said this is not the direction we should go. Sales said we don't need a more precise machine.
Which is surprising for a company where everybody is always talking about how we are the most precise.
Yes. So, but the voices, so the mood was extremely clear. So I would say the majority of the company wanted to go in a commodity kind of area. So to compete with competition at that time. Mm-hmm. But the topic was not that our machine was too precise, but we just had issues in really communicating what the machine was all about. And it's super easy today if you say this is, usually you can't bring precision and productivity together. So high dynamics and high precision. This is something that is directly against each other. This is what we nailed in the last 15 years. And we really had a hard time actually communicating that and making people and customers understand that this works. And therefore, we always want to go into commodity, being more price competitive, and therefore fight against competition in that field. Luckily, we didn't do. I think we wouldn't be around anymore if we would go down that path.
Probably not. But so you started with the marketing presentation, showing them the 4 Ps. And then there was an ongoing machine development at that time. And I mean, our head of development is a scary, brilliant machine developer, but definitely not a marketing person. So, and now you're standing there and you're telling him about the 4 Ps. And I'm quite sure Matthias, because he's very intelligent, he got this. But how did you get him to actually start following these principles? Because I'm quite sure since you started, the direction of the development has changed drastically, and probably not without too much resistance. But you had to motivate the developers. You probably had to take them to the customers. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you managed to actually implement these marketing strategies besides just showing them?
Yeah. So I think there were 2 important things. So the first is that Matthias has a big interest in those things, in business and also in marketing. I don't know. I don't want to say a lot of knowledge. I actually can't remember. But I would say working together on that was really big fun. So we were sitting together. We were talking about claims and about the way we want to communicate things, how we want to build up the product, also from a communication perspective at some point in time. We did that together. And I heard a lot of sympathy and understanding for where we wanted to go, and was extremely supportive. So I have to say that. And so till today, we have some nice development projects running, and we are both really looking forward to the moment where we sit together and actually build the claims around the machine and the product we're gonna offer to the market, and really being tough on just saying what we can prove. So there's, for example, a principle here that also helps a mechanical engineer is there's a pain or gain we want to address. So the customer has a pain that we can solve, so we have a pain reliever for that. Or he wants to create a gain, and we have this pill, if you want, that creates this gain, and you want to have a reason to believe. So that is what we every kind of communication we create is based on that. So you address the customer on his needs, you show the benefit you offer, the product you offer, and you have a reason to believe, which can be measurement data, which can be a testimonial, which can be experience that we have, but it's always proven. And this is something I think an engineer can rely on and work with. And that's how we do it. So in different kind of industries, you would actually act differently, but here I think this works very well. And the second thing why this worked out very well was that I had Sebastian Guggenmoos with me, and we were working together at 3M for many years. He as an engineer, me as a marketer, trying to get those things together and creating products or categories, even like prevention at that time in the dental industry. And we both found that it worked out very well, and we were a team on that. So actually, I think we were able, with the energy and experience we had at that time, to just drag people with us. Dragging is not the right word to say.
To pull them
convince,
with you, yes.
yeah.
Yes, okay.
Motivate.
Yeah. That communication of what the product can do to the customer. I mean, I see it with us in applications, how important it is. I can see it every time I go out with one of the salespeople. And it's not really so much about what the machine can do. Because if you look at, for example, like technical data on machines, and you look on our homepage, I think for the HD, we are stating 2 microns precision, which is pretty much what every company on the market is stating about their machine. Mm-hmm. I think we are being very honest there. The machine is probably a lot more precise, or I actually know how precise it is, but not something to be discussed on the internet. But the 2 microns for us, it's the precision on the part and not the precision on the machine. And for other companies, it's, well, the precision of the axis, maybe sometimes of one single axis. So it's a little bit weird there. But this what for our customers, I find the majority of the time they are not really interested in the technical data. They are more interested in the technology of the machine.
Yeah, so this is a big field. It's what Kern always tries to do, is what I tell everyone, is also a immutable law is if you want to create loyalty, you have to over-deliver on expectations. This is what we always do. And I can also say a negative example. So if you get a Kern machine, you have expectations. If this thing is there, hits your shop floor, then actually it needs to perform better than what you were expecting. And we usually always accomplish that. At the time when we launched Micro HD, we really hadn't the capacity for Micro HD, for all the, I would say, interest and orders we got in. So what we did is we had some Micro Varios. And the Micro Vario is a wonderful machine, it really is. And from what you expect from a machine with, I would say, with not having microgap hydrostatic integrated linear drives, this machine really exceeds expectations. And what we did is we gave customers the Micro Vario until they got the Micro HD. And what happened instantly is they got the machine. They say, okay, we will do some tests. We just get familiar with the overall architecture of the machine, how a Kern machine works, and then we wait for the Micro HD to really do our high quality or demanding parts. Reality was they were blown away by what this machine was able to do, and most of them directly started to go into their production of their parts. Actually, what happened afterwards is when we exchanged the machine with the Micro HD, of course you put something on top. But people thought, okay, I had no expectations on the Vario. Now it was really outstanding. And how much better is the HD then? So the expectations were super high. And we could actually deliver on that. But we weren't able to actually exceed that the way we did with the Micro Vario. So that's what we figured out right away is we're not going to do that again.
Yeah. I mean, people often underestimate the performance of the Vario because if you look at it, it kind of looks like every other machine tool on the planet. It has linear rails, it has class scales, it has a spindle, it has ball screws, it's servo driven. And people are like, well, how good can it be? And to me, it's surprising because, I mean, we started building our reputation, our current reputation of being like super productive, super precise, super high quality surface finishes. I mean, this was the Vario.
Sure.
When we launched our social media and people really started seeing what we can do. This was still only the Vario because the HD wasn't launched back then. And I think, I mean, if you look at the HD, there's so much amazing technology in it. Like you mentioned, the microgap hydrostatics, the linear motors, the combination of both, the advanced cooling. But a lot of this technology is also already in the Vario. Like the cooling is in there, our digital compensation of the spindle length expansion, which is much superior to sensor-based length compensation, just because you have no dead time. We are able to predict what the machine is doing, so it's not just a change happening and then the machine adjusting, but it's as the change is happening, the machine is adjusting. So people are always underestimating the Vario. At the same time, for me, knowing what the Vario can perform, I'm actually amazed because it's standard technology, it's standard machine tool technology. Everybody is building their machine like this, and it's an amazing machine. So there, I think if you get a Vario delivered, and I often see this in workshops with potential customers, it's kind of like, this can't be real. Why is this machine so quick? Why is this machine so accurate?
Yep. Absolutely true. And this is a topic. So we have some advanced engineering in that. So the whole design of the axis, etc., how the fourth and fifth axis is located in the machine, how they work together. This is all what is also in the Micro HD, and as you said, the real-time calibration, things like that, that make the machine really an extremely good machine that can always. So I've never experienced a customer who said, "Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed for whatever reason." Then actually it doesn't happen, and This is an important part. This is also what we have in everything we develop. It's not just like we want to go for the standard. It's also when you see things we do in our company. There is no such thing like a value product. So we say, okay, we will put that into our company. We will manufacture that on our own to save money. Because the first and foremost thing is we focus on to advance machine, to advance what the machine can do. And building something that somebody else can build exactly in the same quality and performance, or even better, we will never do.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference.
I mean, it's been quite a while since we did a video tour of the company, and I think we have to do one quite soonish again. But if you just like walk through our construction, you can see everything where precision matters. We are doing ourselves if no one else can supply it. I mean, even we are, for example, doing the cables for our electrical cabinet ourselves. This is not for saving money. This is for getting the quality, having the exact length, knowing that like all of the plugs, all of the crimp connectors are done perfectly well, so you have no failure point there. And all of the parts which are maybe we are too small of a company to do, or where there's just no added value. So for example, the enclosure of the machine, these are obviously provided by suppliers to us. So we're really focusing on the precision there.
By the way, this is a nice story for a question you asked earlier. I really want to do something on design of the machine. So micro HD today, also the Vario looks different. And of course, the sheet metal is a lot more expensive than it was with the MF11, how we call it, so the first micro. And this was one of the biggest fights I had internally, because people didn't understand why the machine should look different. There's no advantage in terms of the design of the machine, if you know what I mean. So this was really, Eckhard Alspeck at the time asked me if I'm crazy. I want to spend 8,000 euros more on the housing of the machine without having any positive effect on the performance. And the real difference was made when we had this new
front panel.
The
control panel.
The control panel of the machine that was actually had then an advantage in needing less space, being more ergonomic, and so on. So that was the point where he actually said, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess the first question the person who ever drew up the technical drawings for the enclosure up in development asked themselves was probably like, is this going to make the machine more precise? Because usually decisions in development are taken like, is it going to make it more precise, and not, is it going to look nicer?
This question was asked when you wanted to do anything, especially on restrooms here or something like that. How should we spend $100 in a restroom when we could put it in the machine? I think this is still something that people appreciate buying machines from us, but there's also a point where you say, okay, I buy a machine for a couple of $100,000, and actually you want to be in a facility where you
can actually visit the restroom. Yes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay, very nice. And with that, over-deliver on the HD, maybe my 2 cents on that one. We often in application get asked, like, how much better is the HD? And we're like, oh, it's an insane machine. And they're like, yeah, but how much better is it than the Vario? And for a long time, our answer kind of was like, well, the Vario is an amazing machine, and we have no idea how good the HD is. And now the HD has been on the market since 2019. And we got quite a bit of experience on the HD. And I think every application technician, and also myself, we love working on the HD. And it's a little bit more dampening. It's a little bit more precise. You get a little bit more productivity. It's overall, in like every regard, the better machine. But I still can't put a number on it. And sadly, it isn't 2 times better. Definitely not. It's definitely not 2 times better than the Vario. But what people sometimes forget is this is the top of the pyramid. This is the pinnacle of 5-axis machining. And it's kind of like if you start running and you are not an avid runner before, and in the first weeks you get huge improvements. And then over time, the curve flattens out. And precision-wise, we are at the very flat part of the curve. Every time we want to make the machine more precise, it's a major effort. And I think we are approaching the point where no one can pay, and also no one wants to have a more precise machine. Because this is, to our listeners, the rest of the industry is lacking. There's you would need more precise metrology machines, which are really difficult to buy, really expensive, really specialized. The tooling industry especially. We are stating 2 microns precision on the part, and the most precise ball end mill you can buy states 2 microns radius error. So why are there not more precise tools? And I kind of feel like the rest of the industry needs to catch up with us before making a more precise machine makes sense. And in that regard, the Vario is an insanely good machine, and the HD is overall better in every regard, but it's not 2 times. It's just a bit more, and that bit is hard to define.
Yeah, that is true. It depends on actually what you do. It can make a huge difference and actually I think in many parts. Mm-hmm. But from actually what you see, if you look from a little distance, you're totally right. And the Micro Vario is an absolutely great machine. But most of the time, what people say is, I want to have linear drives. And talk to Matthias Fritz about that. I just said from a marketing perspective, product management perspective, just put linear drives in that machine. And the answer I get from R&D, and this is to respect this, we would make the machine more expensive and worse than it is today. And this is something we don't do. Full stop. And coming back to what you say in terms of what are the specifications of a machine, there are, and we are friends with everyone. So we have very good relationship to also our direct competitors, and it's never, so we will never talk badly about someone else's machine. So especially since everyone has a spot in the market. But what we surely do is, if you compare, there's one, for example, says maximum workpiece size, and it's measured from really the top of the fourth and fifth axis to the spindle nose.
At the highest position.
At the highest position, yeah. And this is something, as I said, you talk about over-deliver and on expectations, and this would just like be something you would try to fit in a workpiece, and actually there would be no way of milling it because of the fact that it is just exaggerated. And there's one, for example, that's like size metrology. They do something like we do. If you buy a machine from them, they will state its accuracy is 0.8, and then they will come and install the machine and they will calibrate, and it will be 0.6.
Yes.
And not less than that. So, or not more than that. Sorry. That is the principle. We never go to what is written in the brochure. It always needs to be better. If it's not, if it would be 0.8, they wouldn't leave, but they would come back until they actually over-deliver on what they promised on that. And this is something that I think is a super important thing. And by the way, this feeds also into something that's also very important is this is coming back and to the listeners, this is something that I would recommend to look at is Simon Sinek, How Great Leaders Inspire Action. It's a TED Talk from, I don't know, beginning of the 2000s. It's really super cool. And what he states in that is people don't buy what you do, but why you do it. And this company, Kern, runs on this principle.
That is very true. Just at the beginning of this week, I had a supplier visiting us, and I was showing them the production. And I visited that supplier for like fixtures a couple of months ago, and they showed me their production, and I showed them the current production. And I was explaining everything about the machine, and it was not so much like, this is the travel, this is the tool changer size. But for example, on the tool changer, I was explaining why we do it this way. Like, why is it so accessible? And I was comparing it to their machines and showing their pain, because usually putting tools into a CNC machine is kind of like annoying. You often have to wait for the tool changer to put the tool away. There's bad accessibility. There's sharp corners on the enclosure where you can cut yourself. And on a Kern, you have this large cabinet. You can open it. You can put the tools in. You have sometimes, depending on the machine configuration, the removable pallets. And I'm not telling people how many tools fit in. I actually have no idea. I can never remember the exact number. I usually just wave my arm and like, there's lots of tools you can put in. And I'm like, but let me show you why it's so cool. And then I let people put in tools and let them experience what it is to take out the pallet and back in. So how many tools fit in, for the majority of the people, this is really not important because they see, oh, it's large. Okay, this is more than we have on any other machine. And then it's like, why was it done this way? And that's what really appeals to them. And that supplier, he called me the next day and he was like, Marvin, I just wanted to say thank you. And my head was smoking the whole way back to our facility. This is so cool what you are doing, and everybody is so motivated, and it's crazy how much technology there is at the top end. And it wasn't a single fact. It was just like the why was important to him.
Yeah. And this is like, if you think, for example, so to explain the principle also, if you think of John Grimsmo, and by the way, I don't want to hurt any feelings, but there's certainly very good knives out there. And there might be, I'm not 100%, I'm not a knife expert, but I guess that there are knives that are a lot less costly and are as good as, perhaps close to as good as what John does. But actually it's about how he does things, why he does things.
Yes, it's the story.
You buy you want to be part actually of a community, and this gives a lot of also advantages. For example, if we talk about Kern, this gives a lot of advantages, and the machine is really just, as you said, it's what we are doing. So everyone working for a company knows what they are doing, and many of them know how you do it. So we make it beautifully designed, or I don't know, we make it super fast or super precise. But really the how, so why we're getting up every morning, what motivates us over a long period of time to work in this company is the change you make, is really the, how should I say, the creed, I said that before. Mm-hmm. It's why we are here, and this is coming back. So if you were then 80 years old looking back and said, all I've done is gone or meaningless or whatsoever, that would be a nightmare. And actually, this is the good feeling I have entering this company every morning. I know this is not going to happen because we're challenging or we're tackling challenges that are really important. So we have a lot of things going on here every day that are meaningful to a much broader, and again, I want to be very humble on that and not exaggerate what we're doing. So we're doing the normal stuff too, but not even every now and then, but quite often the things we do are changing bigger things for the better.
There's an impact of our machines. They are doing products that kind of no one else can do, which is interesting. And I would say with the majority of our customers, it's also products where I can put myself fully behind. Like there's super cool microfluidics customers who are doing amazing medical analytics. I'm quite sure that the majority of the analytics machines on the planet are running Kern parts. We know it from our contract manufacturing. We know the customers we have. But also for the watch industry. When I started working at Kern, I was kind of like, a watch is kind of an anachronism. No one needs a watch anymore. You have your smartphone with you, and your smartphone tells you the time more precisely. And then I started talking to people, and I see, and I'm still not a watch person, but I see how much joy people get from owning a mechanical watch that is made to perfection. And there's also some impact. And I think it's cool. I mean,
yeah, that's what I learned once with going in the US with sales guys of 3M. They always said if your potential customer wears a expensive mechanical watch, you can see there is a psychological spot that you can trigger. So this guy is really able to waste money on something totally unnecessary. So this is where you can make a good deal. But actually, it's like you said, it's the other way around. So again, coming to that, you buy an IWC or Rolex or Patek Philippe for why they do it, from from the heritage, from the whole craftsmanship and so on. So it's not about the product needs to be the best in the world. So it's just like those things are the very few timepieces, if you want, that still are not accurate. So you buy a $20 Casio digital watch, it's by far more accurate than what you buy for, I don't know, 50K from Rolex.
Yes.
But it's not about showing the time accurately. So it's the whole thing around. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, usually engineers, so I mean, the majority of people I meet in business are engineers, and they are quite frugal people. I mean, the majority of engineers, they would never drive a Porsche. But if I meet an engineer who's wearing a IWC on his wrist, I'm 100% convinced this is not to show off that he has money. This is because he's just like so fascinated by the product.
Absolutely.
It's a nice starting point for the conversation, because then I can point out like, hey, you know, this is one of our largest customers. And then you get talking into the precision that goes into a watch. And our machines are definitely an enabler of that technology. Sure. And we're not doing the simple or large volume parts. We are doing like the really advanced parts for these watches.
Yeah.
And
this is why you mention Porsche. So this is something that we try. So the best thing we talked about the watches, where the product's good, but not the best you can get. I think what Porsche accomplished is they have from a technology and perspective, mechanically, one of the best cars in the world, and also the rest, so the emotional part is done very, very well. So they master both parts of it, and this is where you want to be. You want to have a super emotional, interesting product people want to be part of, that community, and if it's mechanically also the best that you can buy, this is the sweet spot. This is where you want to be.
I think this applies exactly to our HD, because if you see customers coming in, and often they are looking at the Vario, not because it's cheaper, but they are like, this could probably fit our product. And then obviously once they're inside the company, we do a construction tour with them. They see all the HDs being made, and obviously we show them the machine, we start explaining it. And I think this happens about 8 out of 10 times. The construction worker putting the machine together, he also gives some input. So you're standing there with customers, and the guy putting the screws into the machine, he's like, oh, and this is so amazing. You can feel it here. And then he lets people just push the axis system around. And I think everyone who's
thank you very much for doing that. Every customer who visits us in the last couple of months wants to push the axis. Yes. And people in production outside, they get crazy. They go, no, for God's sake, not again.
I'm never telling them to push the axis. I think you have to follow Kern Precision in their Instagram videos for that. But the thing is, once they push this axis, and I mean, it's 300 kilograms, about 600 pounds, and you can push it with one finger, the majority of customers don't want a Vario anymore. They are just like, okay, I'm stoked. I want an HD. I want that piece of technology.
Yeah. And coming back to hard facts. So because we have a lot of smaller customers running smaller enterprises, like 20 people or something like that, or 5 people, but also for bigger corporations. So and I can still remember also you guys saying at the beginning when we launched the Micro HD, me asking, how good is it? So how can we benchmark in terms of just creating numbers that show how good the machine is? So it's going to take 2 to 3 years until we know how good it is. We know it's good. We can prove it. But to see the limits of what it can do, I think we're still not there completely. And this is something important. Also, bigger corporations buy a Micro HD, not because of the challenges and tasks you have today, but this is a machine that can also tackle the challenges of tomorrow and the day after. And I think this is an important thing, and the spot we want to be. Also coming back to the why. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know how we do it, and we know what we do, but this is the point, and this is what you actually have a hard time putting into a brochure.
Oh, very definitely so. But it's also because the applications for our machine are so broad. So if you, for example, look at fantastic machines, Cope machines, for them it's really easy. The next generation, they're going to be like, hey, we increased the workpiece weight, and then they show the boring of cylinder heads, which I think used to be their main business before electric cars came on the market. And then they're like, now we can bore cylinder heads 22% quicker. And every one of their customers is going to be like, nice, I see the advantage of the next generation. And for us launching the HD, I remember you asked us, like, how can we benchmark the machine? And it was like, well, okay, what are we going to show? The machine is quite a bit quicker on micro drilling because of the quick Z-axis acceleration. You can just retract quicker. So micro drilling is quicker. Okay, but we also have customers who are not only doing micro drilling, we have customers who are doing nice surface finish. Oh, the surface finish is much better. Okay, so let's benchmark this. And then you get started on one area and it never stops. It just doesn't stop. Then you have like small toroidal movements. So just having the axis move back and forth in small circles. On the HD, I would say you're probably 50% quicker than on the Vario, which is massive. But if you put 50% quicker into the ProSure and someone is just facing their part, there's no difference between the two machines. So it's not only a very broad scope we would need to benchmark. Once you put it into the ProSure, it's very hard to tell customers, well, it's this single case. And that kind of doesn't fit with the Bavarian outlook of under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
We kind of want to be completely honest in what we are doing.
Yeah. And I think there are some, like what you said, if you have very, very small increments moving along one axis, for example, this is what we know, and this is going to kill the ball screws of a standard machine. Like the micro Vario and standard machine, I mean, really from an engineering perspective is how to move the axis. So this is going to kill it. This is something that the HD is very good at. So this is easy. If somebody wants to go into a jig grinding or something like that, there's just one way. We don't offer jig grinding on a micro Vario because you might kill the machine over time. You will reduce the lifetime and increase total cost of ownership if you would allow that because of the wear. No problem on micro HD. So that is fairly easy. But that's exactly what you say. Coming back to marketing, it's hard to market something within the field, within the rules that we set to ourselves, as you said, under promise, over deliver, to have something that is a little bit transcendent. I don't know if this is the right word for it. So this is very much, as I said, to customize to his personal view, to his requirements. And therefore also we don't go through big distribution companies or something like that, have dealers everywhere. This is not about it. We figured out we have to go direct. We have to see what the customer needs, what the real problem is. You have to be there. Actually, I've given every one of my salespeople a hard time if they talk about a project and they've never been there. I said that's the most important thing. You have to be there, see it. If you don't know what's going on, you can't be a very good partner and really offer problem solutions, because most of the time everyone knows that is what you articulate is just a small part of the whole thing. So that is an important point, and you will like that. The best sales reps we have, they're coming out of applications department.
Obviously. I mean, with Kern, everything is about technical sales. We are not going to sell a machine because it's cheap. That's not the way we went. There's other companies who are building cheap machines. And we are also not going to sell a machine because of the technical data. Because if you just look at our travel in X, well, pretty much every machine on the planet has a larger X travel. So we're not going to sell a machine purely based on the technical facts. But then you have customers coming in house or us visiting them. And then, as you said, you see their pain. They have problems with repetition. They get one good part and then it slowly starts drifting. And then you can put your thumb on that pain and you can speak to him about that direct problem. You can be like, okay, your current machine is drifting because, well, that's the problem. And then you can tell him about the Kern and the efforts we are taking that there is just no thermal drift, which is a very modern way of building machines. And I think there you're really starting to convince the customers. This works for us very nicely because we are doing a limited amount of machines per year. Because I would say the effort we are putting into every customer, into making their product better, into giving them more value, is massive.
Massive, absolutely, yeah. And as I say, it's not a commodity. So there was one thing, for example, and you know that Alexander Stauder introduced that some time ago for our applications department, is that we say we don't do test cuts anymore.
Yes.
Wow, that was a big hit. So everybody was complaining about that. But the reality is, and very often, especially in projects we lost perhaps in 2018 or something like that. If you come back to customers many times, you hear what we saw at that time from machines, test cuts, we cannot actually replicate in our environment. And they have a really hard time for parts that have been measured wonderfully in very good accuracy to actually get that done in their workshop. And what we do today is we invite customers to a workshop, which is by far the bigger effort, because
it's so stressful.
Yeah,
I'm very rarely doing workshops because I'm kind of have other tasks at Kern. But when I do a workshop, I mean, basically the principle here is, from application point of view, instead of offering a test cut, we tell the customer, bring your material, come in-house, and together we are working on your part. And you're going to see the machine is actually delivering. Because let's say you want to make a hole with a very precise circumference, diameter. Okay, modern CNC machines, they replicate quite well. So what you usually do is you measure the tool, you interpolate a bore, then you measure that bore, and then your compensation, then you're starting to compensate the radius error. And then you get a very precise diameter. And this works on every well-built modern CNC machine. This is not impressive. This is something with enough effort, you can fine-tune basically every linear error. But then you have a customer coming in for a workshop and you're like, okay, let's do this super precise hole and let's do it together. Let's do the whole workflow. So we're going to set up the tool and we're going to show him like how precise are we working. So we are cleaning the tool holder, we are cleaning the tool, we're putting the tool into the magazine. We explain to him how do you measure the tool, what data do you need to put into the tool table. And then we interpolate the hole and we measure the hole. And they are like, wait, you're not warming up the machine. And I'm telling them, no, for that precision, you don't need to warm up the machine. The machine just performs. And if you just deliver the test cut to the customer with a perfectly bored hole, he's going to be like, okay, well, everybody delivered a perfect hole. But then with us, he sees there's no magic. It's just the machine capability giving you a perfect hole. I had that situation happening when one of our customers from Florida, Nick from P3D Creations, which I think is getting his machine installed right now, like right at this moment, he visited and was like, okay, I'm just going to show you and teach you the workflow to producing precise bores. And we do the bore expecting to compensate it, and it was perfect to, I think, the last decimal, so to like 0.1 microns. That was how precise the first bore was. And I was really annoyed because I wanted to show him how to compensate the radius on Heidenhain, and the machine just performed. And this is where the workshop principle really comes in. When the customer sees, okay, the machine really is this good, without an application technician fine-tuning the process for 3 weeks, this is the quality we need. And then you're very successful in selling machines.
And actually also coming back to honest marketing is, as I said, this is the reason to believe. This test cut might have been done in a lab environment with the best people on the
machine that's specially calibrated for that one.
Machine.
Yes,
exactly. And if you really want to show honesty and the real performance, this is the way to do it in a real work. So, and I have to be perfectly honest. If we and we face challenges along that way, and we have to deal with it how we usually deal with it. We're not hiding anything anymore. And I think this is why this is so exhausting at some time. So if you look at the application engineers, after 3 days of workshop, they are really grinded down to the minimum because of the fact that it is a lot of effort, that it is a lot of stress in that specific moment, but it delivers the best outcome. And actually what we see is in the success rates versus what we did here alone in the past, cutting parts and sending it over. So the success rate is so much higher because people and customers understand actually what they can expect from the machine. And
I mean, seeing is believing at that point. But I agree with you with the stress for the application technician, because I mean, it's not like you can prepare a nice demonstration and you know everything works because you run it 3 times. No, maybe you get the customer like step files and technical drawings beforehand, you prepare a little bit. But I can tell you in every workshop, at latest after 2 or 3 hours, the customers are like, okay, nice, we've seen everything. Now can we check this? Can we try this? And then you have the customer standing behind you and they want you to do something you've never done before. And you're like, okay, I have no idea whether it's going to perform. I usually tell people like, okay, I have no idea. I've never done this before, but let's try it. And then we learn together that actually the machine can do it or it can't. And then we change something and it works. So the amount of expertise from our application technicians, I'm always blown away by not only how good of a machinist they are, but also how good they are at adapting. It's just like seeing, oh, okay, there's a slight flaw here, but we could change this setting on the machine, we could change this in the process, and then arrive at the customer's expectation. And this really convinces customers.
And coming back to that, this is also, if we look at the sales process, our current sales process also is we qualify, that is not the right word, but I hope everybody knows what I want to say, qualify the customer for the machine. So we learn about his abilities, and usually the customer, and let's be honest on that, we always try to, or want to hear, we are experts in this and that and whatnot. Customer is the expert in his in his part. He knows most about it, and very, very rarely we know more about the whole process than the customer does. We know the machine part, those things going together. And by the way, this is the slogan we have in the English-speaking part of the world, is together 2 steps ahead. And that's what it is. We want to be ahead with our technology. The customer surely is ahead, and both together we are 2 steps ahead of what everybody else can do. And we can see that till today. There's this also this fact, there's no current customer that ever went bankrupt. It's because of the fact that if you know what you're doing and we master that thing together, you have a huge advantage versus the competition in that field, which you can commercialize on. And in this process, for example, we see perhaps a lack of knowledge on the Heidenhain or something like that, or something we can improve. Let's not call it lack. And we have a training center here that can actually teach them, offers trainings that can help to actually close this gap. As well as in many other parts, like, for example, the tools, etc., etc. This is where we put a lot of energy in, and this whole process helps that at the end, when the machine is delivered, we're 100% sure they can be successful. They will be successful in what they're doing. And this makes the difference.
Yeah, I mean, so we have these application technicians, which are amazing at the customer workshops. But I mean, it doesn't stop once you purchase the machine. So quite a few customers at one point during owning their Kern, they discover a project where they are just not hitting what they want to hit. And usually they just drop us an email, and then we set up a Teams call. We talk to them about different strategies, what tools to try to adapt their feeds and speeds. And this is also a massive effort for us, and it takes up quite a bit of time. And I've never seen us write a bill for that. Like, customer doesn't get billed because, well, you have the Kern machine and it's a bit cheesy and corny, but you're part of the Kern family. So obviously you can try calling me. I'm probably not going to pick up the phone, but if you drop me an email, you're actually going to get an answer within like a day, with tool recommendation, feeds and speeds, what machine setting to try to improve that process. And it's never like, try a bit more of this. It's always like a long and, I would say, technical competent answer. Yeah. And having that direct access to the experts at the company, I don't think there is a lot of machine tool companies where the customer, after owning the machine for 2 or 3 years, can ask the application department and get a competent answer.
But this is walk the talk of what we started before we sold the machine. So, and this is a very important part, and something that what I think is getting more and more important. So the machine today is, I should say that correctly, less dependent on the abilities of the operator.
Most definitely. I remember you doing perfect interpolated pores on the machine.
Yeah, with you in the background, yeah. But actually, yeah, that's the point. So you're less dependent on the operator. But what is even more important is actually having the ability to develop on that. So you can focus on different things. And this is what we need to cover today. Therefore, things outside of the machine, like the process, the tools, everything is getting more and more important. And there's one thing also, to be perfectly honest, we're talking about a lot of good things. So can develop very nicely, but we also have some challenges, and we are also missing out on some things. Like, for example, I think we're doing very well in the applications department, put a lot of energy in, as well as the KTC, the Kern Training Center. But we right now have a lot of tasks to do, for example, in the service department. So at that time when we launched the Micro HD, we said, okay, it's a machine that needs a lot less service, that is actually nearly maintenance free. So of course you have to do some maintenance, but it's easy go, and most of the customers can do that on their own, don't need a service technician. We were wrong on that. And not because the machine is less reliable, but we brought a lot more machines into the market, and therefore we need a lot more people to actually install machines, etc., which interferes with when a customer owning a Kern has a problem with the machine, spindle fails or whatsoever. You want somebody to be there on the very same day, because of the fact this machine is making, so especially the guys from the US know that this machine's making money every second it's standing still. It's gonna cost us money opportunity wise, and therefore the pressure is a lot higher. And what we're doing right now is really trying to elevate service, not just like having a functional service, but where we need to go is having Kern quality also in service, offering more than you expect. And this is where we are not today. Actually, we're working on that heavily, put a lot of money into this organization right now to really have something to develop over the next couple of years. This is not gonna happen instantly, but this is what we see, and which is the problem in actually running a company. A lot of people know that is once you mastered something, it's not gonna stay like that. Times are changing, and you have to adapt all the time. And this is like here, it's like a big, Ameisenhaufen, a pile of ants.
Anthill.
An anthill. Okay, yeah. You can direct translate. This is just like looking at every bits and piece, and some things might go wrong on one, or we might lose quality on one or the other point, and you directly have to counterbalance. And this is the bigger a company gets, the more complex this is. And wow, this is a lot of work. So actually, it's not just like we say, we do this, we do that makes sense, and then this works. No, it's constantly adapting, making things better. Otherwise, you're gonna be standard one day.
Yeah, and I think, also, we definitely don't want to be standard here, but also with like these small issues arising, if you look at the people who have worked for Kern for a long time, if there is anything wrong in their department, it's like panic mode. Because, quality is, and I still have to smile about this. When I started in 2018 at Kern, they handed me the 10 commandments of quality.
This is super cool.
And I only remember the 6th one, which was delivering a faulty product to the customer is a shame to the company, the department, and the worker responsible. It was like, wow, this is hardcore.
Yeah, this is hardcore, but it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely true.
You can feel that.
Yeah, and the people really act like this. So if anything is like even slightly less than our usual standards and expectations, it's full-on panic mode. And I see this when we two are having meetings, the amount of people running into your office, just like barging in and being like, this doesn't work, it's horror, we need to change something. I'm really happy I'm not the CEO and have to deal with that. So huge kudos to you, Simon, at this.
We have some things, for example, where a chiller or something like that is not working properly. And we test those things here, but actually what we don't do is an air water chiller, for example, we put into production and let it run against our air conditioner or something like that. Obviously we test it if it works, and then you deliver it, something might happen, and at customer side, this thing is not performing as it should be. Things like that happen, but it's exactly as you say, it's like
panic mode.
Crazy amount of energy.
It's like drop everything. Something is not working, and we need to fix it now.
Actually, we have a Mercedes Sprinter. I don't know if this is known. It's a van, and people ask, why do you have this van? For exactly this thing. We're putting a chiller in. We tie it down, and then somebody's driving 8.5 hours to deliver it the same day.
I mean, for example, when Zecha did their world record of like uninterrupted milling time with a single cutter, it was shortly before Christmas, or they started it shortly before Christmas, and I think their chiller broke down. And we actually, the day before Christmas, we got one of our service technicians to put another chiller from production into the van, drive 4 hours to Zecha and install it. And I think this was like 6 hours between their chiller failing and getting a new chiller, which works because Zecha is not too far away, but still this is kind of like what sometimes happens.
Yeah, we also do that in Italy or in Denmark or whatsoever. Yeah. That's the same thing. And that is the topic, but this is also something that people have to deal with, is the exceptional is what people require. So you don't want to hear, we're going to be there beginning of next week or something like that. And this is actually what we also have to deal with the service department right now. If we have something like spindle weeks, this when everyone crashes their machines in the exact same week. And then, of course, you can't ever have enough people to deal with that on a really short period of time. And there's always kind of tension. And to deal with that better and to actually have processes in place that help us to be quicker and to still have very high quality in also the things that we're doing. This is a challenge we're tackling right now.
And I mean, with spindle replacement, most people don't realize that, but if a customer spindle breaks down, it's not that the spindle manufacturer is sending us a new spindle. It's actually us having to put spindles into stock, which is a massive amount of bound capital. Mm-hmm. And I want to have a very firm point there. I didn't kill my spindle. It broke on its own. It's a warranty case.
Some say so.
Yeah. But we were looking through our storage whether we have one air-bearing spindle, one aerostatic spindle left, we could put it immediately into the machine. Let's not discuss why our SAP system said maybe there is one. That's a very weird thing. But basically, I was going through storage with our CEO, Sebastian Guggenmoos, and I was just like, I don't often walk into storage. Yeah. And I was walking by, and it was just like spindle after spindle after spindle sitting there. And I was like, Sebastian, this is a massive amount of spindle. And he was slightly annoyed. He was like, yes.
Yes.
So, the amount of spindles we keep here, this is insane. And then you have spindle week, and it's always that magic spindle week. It's never like one customer breaks a spindle, then a week later, a next one breaks. No, it's like Tuesday morning, someone calls, hey, I broke my spindle. And you could actually just like cancel the vacation of every service technician because you can be sure on the same day, 3 other customers are calling and they broke their spindle as well.
And if you think so I got asked many times is, can we get a spare part list for micro HD, for example? And actually, it's a super short list. As the spindle, and so we never exchange axes. I think I don't have to say that. Also, not a 4th and 5th axis. This never happened. It's
touch probe, spindle, coolant nozzles. I think that's it basically.
Oils filter and
oils filters, yeah.
And actually, this is how it's built. So you could also say even a little bit German over-engineered if you look at the 4th and 5th axis, but this thing shouldn't fail. No. If you replace that, that's going to be a nightmare. And nevertheless, we have, I think, 4.7 million euros on stock, just parts. And this explains the challenge we have. So we couldn't say, or we couldn't tell anyone, we're waiting for a spindle from Fischer, for example, for next 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. People would go crazy. And that is the point.
Continuous advancements there, yeah. Okay, I think we are nearly done with the allotted time. You have a meeting in a couple of minutes, and I need to get started on real work. There's one question we would like to always ask each other at the end of the podcast. And I would like you to tell our listeners about a moment you had in the last month since we recorded the last episode. It can be a private moment, a business moment, a good one, or a bad one. Okay. It can be anything, but you have to tell us something that happened to you in the last month.
Okay, this is, you asked me that question the last time, and I was also struggling. I'm not well prepared this time, but at least I have an idea in my mind. So I'm renovating an old farmhouse right now. I don't know if we've mentioned that the last time. It's from originally 1570, so it doesn't look that old because it burned down 2 times. In the meanwhile, I think last time in 1960, and I'm rebuilding that right now. Of course, not I'm doing it, but a lot of my friends are having been carpenters or whatsoever. And there's one thing I can remember in the last 4 weeks is I have a small forest, and this is my hobby. So it's going to the woods actually. Cutting down trees and working with the wood, for example, for heating or whatnot.
Very manly stuff. Yes.
Yeah, very good. And drink a lot of beer. No, not in the forest, too dangerous. And actually what I did is we cut down some trees also with my brother, and we welded, how do you call that? It's a trailer for big wood. You have a crane on top that can pick up the wood. Okay. So with 2 friends, we welded that over the last couple of years. So this thing is massive. It's a little bit heavy, but it can do tough work. And actually, we did the rigging out of the forest. And a friend of mine has a sawmill. And actually, because of the fact that he doesn't have any employees right now, they all ran away. So I helped him. So for 2 days, and we cut the wood in the right shape to doing boards and whatnot, and transporting them back to the farm. And now this wood that I cut down and transported,
your own wood,
my own wood, is now on the side of the house. So in the park that was at that time for hay and so on. In Germany, we call it a Tenne. Mm-hmm. So you can drive up there. It's in the first floor, and there's a big bridge going up, a ramp going up, where you can go with a tractor. And this whole thing, it's a huge part, is now covered with the wood that I cut down. And this, every time I now go there, is a super emotional thing if I see it. And at that house with all their work going in, and actually my wood, the wood that we processed being there, that is something super cool.
Okay, very nice. Sounds like a good moment in the last month.
Yeah.
Lots of good moments.
So, Marvin, what about you?
Oh, I recently started motorbiking and bought a very crazy motorbike. And I think riding it is awesome, but well, it's an awesome motorbike. But the moment where I had a huge smile in my face was once I took it home from the dealership, put it into the garage, and I stepped down from it and I looked at the footrests. It has milled footrests. So it's not a cast part. It's not like a simple machined part, but it's actually it's a BMW M part, and it's milled aluminum, and they milled it in a way that you can actually see the tool path. And not like, miserable quality tool path, but they actually took the tool path as a design feature. And I was like, yes, go BMW, this is the way to do it. Sadly, the footrests are also pretty much the only part on a motorbike you're allowed to legally change yourself without any permission in Germany. Everything else is regulated, and you need an expert to check it, which is prohibitively expensive. So the footrests were kind of like, I was like, maybe I'm gonna mill myself some nice footrests, maybe from titanium. And now they're awesome, and I couldn't do, I could do a nicer surface finish, but I couldn't do a better job design-wise. So it's a bittersweet thing. I have very cool footrests. They are machined. They are CNC machined.
But not by you.
Not by me. Yeah, it's a pity. Okay. Simon, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Marvin.
Until
It
next
was a
time.
pleasure.